Hello everyone. In this video I will walk you through how to create a group by data based on the SharePoint list items. This is the current flow scenario. Step 1, I would get the list of items from the SharePoint, which has a list of car models and the details which is stored in the SharePoint list. And next step, I would find out kind of a key, which is the vehicle type in my scenario, identify the unique keys, and then group all the data which is in the SharePoint list by the unique key, and finally form a JSON model or the JSON object group by vehicle type, and then send an email for email of the JSON to see the result values. Let's start doing it. Okay, so now if you see here, this is my original SharePoint list item, which has a kind of a Singapore car database. You can see the list of items which are stored in the SharePoint list. These are the columns which are present in the SharePoint list item. You could see that there is a title of the car, model URL, submodel, details. So what I'm going to do in the Power Automate is that I'm going to use this vehicle type, and you have several vehicle types like the luxury, sedan and sports. These vehicle types would be my key, so I would form a unique key for this and group all the data based on this vehicle type. Let's create a new Power Automate and start from there. So this is my Power Automate. If you see here, I have just created a Power Automate, blank Power Automate, which is a manual ticket Power Automate. In your scenarios, probably you can create based on automatic or whatever the scenario based on your requirement. And let's start creating group by Power Automate. The first step is to get the items from the SharePoint list. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get the SharePoint get items. You can see the SharePoint, click more, and all the get items. I can see the get items here. So get items will take the list of SharePoint site URL. My list is the Singapore car database, and the parameters. So you have several parameters which you can choose from. So in my case, I'm just going to limit the columns by the view because I don't want all the views to be here. I've already created a view restricted to the columns. For example, for PA, it is my view which is created in SharePoint. If you just want to have a look at this view, you can see here. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to do is that in get items, I want to limit only these columns. This is not a mandatory step, but it's up to you. So I'm just limiting to these type of columns. Coming back to the Power Automate, if you can see here, this is the setup for get items. So after you get all the items from the SharePoint, so I'm not restricting any of the items, so approximately I have 100 plus items. All the items will be loaded into the Power Automate. So the next step is to get the vehicle types. So for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use the select action. From the data operations, you can select the select actions. So basically, I'm just going to create an array of all the vehicle types. So later, so that I can make it to be unique, I'm getting all the items. So now the select items has two options, one with the map and the value. So map and the value is like a key value pair. So what it does is it automatically goes through all the items within these get items object and forms a JSON with a map and a value. In my case, I want just only an array. So what I do is that I just click on this small icon which is on the right side. It gives me only the array item, which is just a single value, meaning that just a column. So in my case I am going to get, so see more, click on see more, and then you would see vehicle type. That's it. So what it does is it will return an array of all the vehicle types which are present in the get items. So if the get items has 100 plus items, so it will return all the 100 vehicle types with duplicate. Okay, so next let me name it to something which is meaningful. Select all vehicle types. Okay, so once you select all the vehicle types, now we need to make it to unique. So for that I'm going to use store it into an array. Let's say I'm declaring a variable. I'm going to initialize the variable. You can see initialize variable. Okay, so this variable I'm going to name it as distinct vehicles. Okay, so distinct vehicles, and it is going to be an array of object, and here I'm going to add a formula for it. So basically what I'm going to do is that there is a formula called intersections. So this formula intersection, what it does is it takes two parameters of a collection and it just gives you the common values between the two collections. So in my scenario I have only one collection. So what I'm going to do is that the collection has a duplicate values. So when you pass the same collection into this formula, it is going to give me only the intersection, meaning that only the common values. So what I'm going to do is that intersection, go to dynamic column and then say output, body of comma the same output. So you can see here intersection of body and then of the same. So I'm passing just the same collection, just add, make sure you save it. So what is going to do is that it would get two collections and get only the common values. So basically it's a distinct vehicle. Next, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to declare a variable. So in this, the next step is to save all the results, which is a JSON format which I mentioned you, groupby. So that would be the result value. So let me save the variables, initialize variable, and I'm going to name this as groupby vehicles and groupby vehicles would be my value, and then it is an array. Leave it to empty because we're going to later form an array or JSON. Oh, okay. So groupby of an array, yes, correct. Okay, so now it is formed. So the next step is I have the results now. So next step what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get the distinct value which is formed. Like for example, there are in our case there are 4 vehicle types. If you see the list here, I'm going back to the list. You see here there are 4 vehicle types. So when this array being formed, it should have only the 4 values, and I'm going to iterate these value and get all the objects, all the items filtered by that. So let me add for each, should be under control, apply to each, and the previous value which is distinct of vehicles, which is an array, and I'm going to name this as each vehicle types. Okay, for each vehicle types I'm going to iterate it. So now what I'm going to do is that this will iterate through the vehicle types which I showed you, the 4 vehicle types. So now in the overall items which the list returned from the SharePoint, I need to filter each vehicle type. So for that I am going to add filter array. Yeah, filter array. Okay, so now the filter array takes a parameter. So from should be the SharePoint items. So let me, okay, from should be the list of all the SharePoint items. So remember, we are directly binding to the SharePoint get items. So what happens is that it will get all the columns here irrespective of the columns which we have selected here. Why? Because we are directly binding into the get items. So you should remember that. And I'm going to filter based on vehicle type. So we'll have to select the vehicle type. There is a vehicle type. Okay, so the vehicle type is equal to the current item. So for each it gives you the vehicle type, so it has to be the current item. Each vehicle type, current item, items of. Okay, so make sure you select the formula here, not the flash icon here, only the formula icon. Sometimes this icon might not give you the current item. Why? Because for some reason it doesn't show the current item. So I always choose the formula icon so that you can choose the current items here. So in this you could see that I have selected the whole array and then the vehicle type which comes in the each array, and it will filter based on the vehicle type. Okay, so this would form an array of all objects filtered by the vehicle type. So now next what I'm going to do is that I'm going to form my own JSON format to get the result. So for that I'm going to use append an array, append to an array variable, and my previous variable object is groupby, and I'm going to form my own object. Let's say first there is a vehicle type, which is the current item. So vehicle type is the current item. Okay, add, and then what is the other one? And I'm going to add the groups. Group, okay, group by, whatever, it's up to you how do you name it, because this group by is going to hold all the array of items based on this vehicle type. So this would be the previous value. So filter body, see output of the filter body. So make sure that you remove this value and supply only the body, because the filter array will return only the body, not the body slash value. So we don't want the value, we need the full body, which is an array of all items. So just add that, that's it. Okay, so now save this one. It has been successfully saved. So once you save, you would see this warning. Why? Because we have not added any filter criteria to get items. So just ignore this warning. It will return everything from get items. So finally, when the value is formed, you want to consume it or you want to use it. In my scenario, I'm just going to send it as an email. So send email to myself. Sentami, enter custom value create.dev and subject cars by vehicle types, and you just send the previous value body, which is the result. So we are saving everything into the result, which is the group by vehicles. So I'm just going to select variable of group by vehicles and just add. Okay. Save. It has been successfully saved. So now I'm going to do the test run. Click on continue and then run the flow. So now I'm going to test it. Hopefully it can execute without an error. So it is executing, green tick, and it should send an email of all the JSON. Yeah. So it has successfully executed and then it has sent an email. Let's see whether the email is okay. So this is the email. We have got the email of all the JSON. Let me copy the JSON and then check whether it has the right value. Let me select here and then I'm going to put it in the Visual Studio Code. So open the Visual Studio Code and then paste your JSON, F1 format document. You would see here. Okay, so let's see the data whether it has clearly formed. You can see the vehicle type luxury group by, which is the array of all the item. And let me close this, and you have station wagon. We can close this, and the sports, close this, and the sedan, close this. Okay, so I think it has correctly formed all the data. You see 4 vehicle type luxury grouped, and then you have all the array of items. So here if you see here, it gets additional SharePoint list items also, as I mentioned you. It doesn't apart from the fields which you have selected, it also sends additional fields which are mandatory fields. You cannot remove it. Sometime it is useful, sometime it is not. And also if you see here, the field names are all the column names, which are like meaningless names. You can form your own JSON format with your own well formed column name. Maybe later I can show you how to do it, but for now you can group by items in this way. So later you can use this group by items when any way which you are looking for, and you can even format this column. Let me investigate the Power Automate, how it executes. So if you see here how the Power Automate is executed, first it is a manual trigger and it gets all the item from the SharePoint list. It takes a while to load. See here, this is the input which I'm I'm limiting the SharePoint list item by the view name. So you would see the get items by this view, GUID of the view. It has filtered and it had thrown up all the outputs. I am not restricting to any output, so it shows all the output, so 100 plus items. And once you get the item, the select, what it does is I am just forming an array of all the vehicle types. So you see here, it gets only the vehicle type as an array. So if it is 100 plus items, 100 plus vehicle types. And intersection formula. So what the intersection formula does is, you see here the raw input, group by, and then the array. I'm just forming an array, and what it does is it would apply the formula intersection and then just get only the common value. And I'm going to run for each. See here, this is the array, so it will, the for loop will run 4 times for each vehicle type. And the filter array, if you see the filter array input, first it would pass vehicle type luxury first time, and it would match all the filter array is a really powerful one which executes at one time. When you pass an array of all items, it would try to match particular property in an array and then just gets you all the items with all the array items within it. So the body will return everything filtered by the luxury. So it is a very powerful action. One time it just executes and gives you the value. and whatever the value which returns, I'm just storing it into my array. So I'm forming my own JSON type. You can also form your own JSON type based on the output, and you can use this. Okay, and finally I'm sending it as an email. So this is how it works. So hopefully this video is very helpful to you, and in subsequent series I would be helping you to find out how to use this group by data in a very efficient way, or form the group by data in a way which you are looking for to use it, consume it. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe